Welcome back to this, already the final segment of today's Price of Business, and I am your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and your business. Delighted to have on the one and only Charles Alvarez, who is with a great company called Cornerstone Business Academy, and that's cornerstonebusinessacademy.com. Longtime friend, longtime contributor to Price of Business, and someone I've been able to kind of sit on the front row and watch what he does in engaging with businesses out there. And, you're kind of on the spot. We had an issue with a potential guest who was, we could be nice and kind of come out with different expressions about it, but was essentially a no-show.
That is correct, and it happens.
Yeah, it does happen. But what's interesting about it, though, is that it seems to me in the last several years in particular, there's just been this enormous growth of disconnect between people and people when it comes to the higher virtues of engagement with one another, and higher levels of, communication with one another. People that, seem hot and excited and begin to communicate and then disappear for no apparent reason. You find yourself looking at a side of milk cartons, for them. It's a very bizarre thing that's happening that I think is systemic, that has begun to permeate, this disregard. I don't know if you want to call it a libertine type culture or a complete narcissistic type culture, but it seems to be permeating everywhere. I mean, I think like even, for example, and I'm not making any kind of moral equivalence for people who just bail out entirely with what I'm about to share, but, you think about an institution, go back, say, 10 years ago, and what was like the finest government institution of all? And that may be an unfair question. If someone were to ask me that question, it'd be the Secret Service.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of it's one of the few things that does what it's supposed to do and does it with incredible integrity and does it extremely well. And with great professionalism, you hardly never hear of a major mess up with the Secret Service. Now, in the last 4 or 5 years, they've literally become Keystone Cops. Mm-hmm. And it's not only a question of competence, it's a question of integrity, ethics, virtue, those type of things. Are you seeing the same thing, or are these merely my senile observations? I'm not that old. Senile may not be the right word, but...
Well, what we're seeing out there is, there really is I guess the best way that I can put it is there really is a process that separates the wheat from the chaff. And what we're seeing that in most than anything, we're seeing
that's
this,
also the wheat from the crap. Oh, that's not right. No, the wheat who are the crap.
Yeah.
Anyway,
and it really comes down to a lot of our clients that we work with in the marketplace. Most of them are Type A's. They're very, very influential, hard charging people. But what I find very interesting is when we first started consulting relationship, one of the first things we talk about is, why are you doing this? Why of all the things you could have done in this world? Why of all the businesses you could have chosen? Why this one? That's the first thing we do. The second thing that we do is say, what are your core values? In other words, what do you stand for? What is your process for making decisions? And we find that those that have core values and have a brand purpose, that we call it, or an identity statement is what we say, those are the businesses and those are the types of businesses that see meteoric type of growth because they deliver the same consistent experience over and over and over again. My thing is, look, if you're going to deliver a bad experience, be consistent at it. Right. If you're going to deliver an exceptional experience, be consistent at it. I know many of your listeners, Kevin, probably watched the Masters, and there are 3 major corporations that were advertising, Rolex, AT&T, and Mercedes-Benz. And what I find interesting, a lot of clients say, we don't need any of that identity statement, or why are we doing it? That's a bunch of crap. Those are for foo-foo, HR type of people. Well, isn't it interesting that these multi-billion-dollar corporations each had an identity statement? AT&T, Connecting Your World. IBM, Solutions That Matter. And Rolex, we don't tell time, we tell history. Those are the things that develop or communicate the brand. And what's great about it is that each of those companies back it up. And my thing is, if you're going to put a brand out there, if you're going to put a company out there, find out what it is that you want to be, find out what your core value is, finding out what it is that you have to offer to the marketplace, And then for goodness sakes, be consistent with it. If you're going to stand for leading, for cheating and lying and stealing, well, at least be consistent about it.
Yeah.
If you're
and if you're going to do that, run for Congress.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And if you're going to stand for excellence and do the right thing, then do that consistently, because that's what builds trust.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate the statement on Rolex, because let's face it, who uses their watch to tell time anymore? It is a historic piece, right?
It is.
It's more like ancient jewelry. It seems like that's been modernized or whatever. Mm-hmm. That's an interesting point. But again, is it more pervasive now, or am I just becoming more of a stickler with age?
I don't know. I actually kind of think it's an asset because what I find is that if I am consistent, if I do deliver the same value, if I am dependable, I'm realizing that more so now than it was probably even 10 years ago, that is a premium in the marketplace today. And I think people still want that from their providers, from the people they do business with, is, even though I may not be consistent, I want my vendors to be, and that might sound like a double standard. What I find is, given the choice between being consistent and dependable and not, I'd rather be consistent either than if somebody isn't. So I actually see it as a competitive advantage out there right now.
But I guess that answers my question. It's a competitive advantage because it is a pervasive problem in our culture.
Probably so, yeah.
Yeah. You really sound like you're hedging your bets on this still.
No, my thing is.
Are you having a hard time committing to the fact that our culture is going to hell in a handbasket?
No, well, I mean.
And I'm not using the guest example today just as that. It's just a small example of how bizarre it gets.
What's going through my head, the reason I'm not willing to really commit to that is because I don't have enough data to say whether it is or isn't. And I like having some facts and figures to go behind besides saying it. But
I'm a pretty anecdotal guy at times.
Yeah, but I will say that I would say that people who are dependable and who are consistent and who do what they say they're going to do, are at a premium these days. And I would rather do business with somebody like that and pay more versus somebody that I don't know what I'm going to get.
Yeah, I can see that. Sigmund, what about you? I'm going to let you weigh in. Sigmund Kramer, our producer.
I think that there's definitely a disconnect. I think that people in general, because of the way that we tend to communicate now in little sound bites, where you hear it in the media, everything's by sound bite. Or anonymously through Facebook, through different chat sites. We tend to give our opinions. We tend to do a lot of our communicating in very, very short, almost impersonal, almost anonymous forms. And I think that it's taken a lot of the humanity out of it. I think that we have probably degraded our sense of worth of others because of the way that we live, and everything does tend to be very me-focused. I can't tell you how many different articles I've come across that basically say, hey, you need to blow the world off. Even if you're a parent with kids, you need time for yourself. You need to do this. You need to do that. It's all about you, baby. It's all about you. Do you not think that that's going to filter through into every aspect of our existence, including our business life?
I don't know. I learned all the good narcissist stuff from my kids. I don't know.
Well,
I'm like, wow, you can do that? That's amazing.
But see, your kids growing up with this type of technology, it becomes a lot easier for them to be narcissists. Yeah. Selfies are killing America. I mean, I could, make blanket statements like that, but let's face it, selfies aren't helping.
No.
So the selfie culture, it's all about me. Hey, look what I'm doing. And it's all fake, by the way. They make their lives look perfect on Facebook and Twitter and all this and that, but it's not. And there's just a general lack of not just compassion. There's a general lack of authenticity in a lot of the way that we live our lives now.
Yes, I agree with that.
And that is definitely making its way through the business world.
Yeah, absolutely. With that, so do you talk a lot about those kind of soft skills? They're almost soft skills now in our culture when you're dealing with the businesses you work with.
True, but here's the funny thing: is we find the businesses who are good at soft skills, and Kevin, just to make sure that we're defining soft skills correctly, we're talking about leadership, management, motivation, communication. Right. What I find is that when your customers are doing business with you, they really don't understand enough about the technical aspects of what you do. So oftentimes you are being judged by how well do you communicate, how well do you respond to emails, how fast do you respond to emails, how well do you do in taking care of your customers, because they simply don't understand the finer aspects of what your particular company does. So I find that the companies that are good at leadership and do connect at the human level, are those that are gaining significant market share over those that think that, well, to be a great engineering company, you have to be the best engineer in the world. And that's not the case. McDonald's does not make the best hamburger in the world. But their customer
This
experience,
is true.
yeah, but
More news at 11.
yeah, but their customer experience and the way they treat customers is absolutely fantastic, and that's why people keep coming to them, because they get a consistent experience every single time. That is able.
They know what they're going to regret.
They know what they're going to regret.
It's consistently bad.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You know what you're going to regret. All right, going to wrap it up with that point. Any final thoughts before I let you go? And by the way, Charles Alvarez, you can learn more about him at cornerstonebusinessacademy.com.
The last point is that people buy the reason why you do what you do, not what you do.
I love that. That's a good point. And it goes back to sell benefits and not features, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's all about the benefits. It's not about what you can do. They want to know what you can do for them. All right.
What have you done for me lately?
Thank you very much, Sigmund. I let him off the leash a little and see what happens. All right. Going to wrap it up with that point. I am Kevin Price. We want to remind you best content here shows up over there at usdailyreview.com. Have a great rest of your day. Spend it wisely right here on this station.